Too often, the onus of getting better or coping is put solely on the individual who's living with mental illness. But mental illness doesn't occur in a vacuum. As colleagues, supervisors, and decision makers in academia, it's important to lead with kindness and empathy and actively try to understand what we can do to support those around us who are living with mental illness and mental health issues.
At the time when I was first diagnosed, it was devastating to not have kind of institutional or supervisory support, or perceived it to not have had those things. And it really made me weary about generally the kind of support that the university wanted to give me or could give me, and other grad students like me. And so essentially that just led to me being much more vocal about the need for graduate student mental health and wellness services, teaching the importance of having a work-life balance, and particularly with the research that we do in the criminal justice field, that's emotionally taxing on its own. And so I've spoken about this in other arenas where universities just need to be doing a better job at preparing their students for kind of the emotional toll that our research takes on us. And that's certainly not limited to the criminal justice field. But I think institutions across the board need to be doing a better job at taking care of their graduate students. I was very fortunate to have incredible colleagues who would advocate for me when I couldn't advocate for myself. Yeah, it's been a rough journey.
My supervisors suggested that I take a break by calling me into a meeting where all three of them were sitting across a massive desk from me in a way that felt extremely intimidating in my primary supervisor's office. And it was right before I had to go and attend a luncheon that was put on for some of the sponsors of our research institute. So I had to engage with some of these sponsors and talk about how exciting my research was and how much the scholarships that they provided to help us a bit financially were, helping make our lives easier and our research easier. And at this meeting right before that, where my supervisors said, we sort of noticed you've really been struggling, and we think you should probably take a break for a while, go take some time. We love having you here. So if you'd like to come back, that's great. But if you decide that you don't want to, then, that's fine too. We're supportive of that. And I think a lot of the wording was done quite well, but I think just the fact that it was in my key supervisor's office and I had these three very intimidating senior researchers sitting across from me, in my mind, telling me that I wasn't good enough and that I shouldn't be there. And, I was in a highly anxious state at that point and experiencing pretty severe depression. So it probably would have been difficult for me to hear the words and not be quite sensitive about them or not feel rejected by them. But in that case, maybe having the opportunity to have a support person there could have been quite helpful, or arranging the meeting at a different time or in a different environment. I was really lucky that the graduate coordinator contacted me when I put in my final leave that I was allocated and sort of said, I noticed you've put in this leave, all your leave is going to be exhausted now. I just want to know if there's anything that we can do to help support you. And I've spoken about that in one of the Voices of Academia podcasts before, but in brief, he's the reason why I went back, because he engaged with me from the university side and kind of helped coax me back into that academic environment, which I was terrified to do that. I just felt so disconnected from that part of my life and didn't feel like I would ever be able to go back there. So yeah, I think having someone in a role that can kind of help maintain some sort of connection between students or staff and their academic institution would be quite beneficial in terms of supporting people, but also maintaining, you know, that person's role there and potentially retaining students and staff in a better way. The return support that I got was pretty good from my supervisors, I have to say. I had a terrifying conversation with my supervisor on the phone, where I basically didn't feel like I had any other option but to come clean with him and say, I've been diagnosed with depression and I need some extra allowances if I'm going to come back, because I can't guarantee that this isn't going to happen again. I can't guarantee that I'm not going to need extra support or that I'm going to be able to do all the things that you're going to be asking of me. I need some extra allowances. And so I felt like I needed to tell him my diagnosis in order to get that. And I felt safe to do that because I had always felt like he was reasonably empathetic and supportive. And he did say that was brave to open up about that. And he sort of wasn't really sure what I was asking or how he could support me. And I think that's an area where maybe supervisors could be given some extra support, or again, if there's someone at the institution in a health and wellbeing role that can help kind of navigate those situations, because I wouldn't expect a supervisor to be across, you know, how to manage every single possible situation that can arise.
I think that my university could have helped me a lot more during my PhD, for example, by reassuring me that it's okay to read the best version of yourself for you only. And if everybody thought like this, rather than competing in league tables, in the number of publications that you have and your the institution that you came from previously, I think that people would be much more accepting of one another and would be kinder. I think that being reassured that you're doing okay is not necessarily helpful, as you want to be in line with everybody else. But so I think that if people were to scrap the system and almost start again, I think that how an individual measures success would be more helpful. And ultimately, if the institution that I was in would have communicated this better, I think that, you know, the way that I measured success and my peers measured success would be easier and therefore would be much better for one another.
When I started PhD abroad, I was unaware of how challenging it would be for me. Don't get me wrong, I knew that immigration is one of the major traumas and might have a huge toll on one's mental health. However, I still didn't know how it would affect me personally. I didn't know how and where to ask for help. I was very scared to look unworthy of my place as a PhD student that I worked so hard to get. I was scared to talk about my mental health challenges with others. I was not sure if I could trust people. However, I sought out therapy as soon as I could through a connection from back home. I was lucky to find someone, but I would have to take a ride almost every weekend for 3 hours one way and pay $60 to $70 out of pocket to get the support that I really needed as a first-year international student. I think that people, especially students who are transitioning to a new country, require access to a specialist who is trained in mental health challenges for immigrants. The option to have a therapy in your first language for international students is something that could be crucial. No matter how well you know English, talking to someone in your own language can help you feel that you belong. And the most important thing to make sure that people can find the help they need is destigmatizing mental health challenges. If people can feel safe to ask questions, to look for help, or just talk about their challenges, there is much higher chance that they will find support that is optimal for them.
My advisor has been incredibly supportive with everything. You know, she's one of the people that I'll have a meeting with, and she'll ask me how I'm doing. And, you know, she's one of the people that genuinely means it. So I am totally free to tell her anything if I'm struggling, you know, that's okay. She definitely checks in on me and gives me the resources that I need to succeed. At the university level, I definitely think that there could be more conversation around mental health. And, you know, universities now will do something like, oh, hey, come color or come play with dogs, you know, here's a yoga session to do for some stress relief. But that's kind of hiding the problem. It's acknowledging the problem, it's acknowledging that students are stressed, but it's not acknowledging the role that academia plays with mental health struggles. So, you know, in academia, we are pushed to do our best. It's publish or perish. It's if you're not working all the time, you're not doing it right. And I would really just love to see some conversation around that. Mental health struggles are so common, especially in graduate school. And just knowing that other people have, you know, the same struggles or similar struggles can really help form a support network. And so just acknowledging the fact that those things are there and that other people have them and giving people something to relate to would actually really help.
Like the key point, the key aspect for me were my close friends and my partner. So together, I realized, and this has been always something that made me go on, that as soon as I start sharing all my worries, and there was already, even if I was not able to find a direct solution, there was already a way to reduce my stress level. And so in this way, I would have liked someone from the institute, from the university, to being able, as like a common message, to tell everyone that when you feel a bit overwhelmed, you don't really need to reach that threshold that you don't want to pass. But if you feel overwhelmed, it's important to ask for help, whether it's a close friend, if it's a partner, if it's someone at the institute that will provide that service. That doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's important to ask for help if you need them. And I realized that just sharing my own experience with some of my friends, that was already 90% of the job for reducing my stress level. For some people, that might not be enough, but that's why it is extremely important that universities will provide a big repertoire of options that are not just available, but also with some reminder that these options exist.
My postdoc mentors and my doctoral advisor, I couldn't have asked for better people. They're excellent human beings, and I got all the help that I could possibly ask for, not even ask for, like, it's impossible to imagine that how much they stood by my side and how much they tried to support me, encourage me, motivate me. I couldn't have asked for better parents, like better friends, the way every one of them was always there and they had my back. But you see, when you are struggling with mental health problems, I struggled with depression. It's very difficult to receive help because you are, in some sense, you are sort of isolated. You're shutting yourself in and fencing the world out. This tends to happen to a lot of us. It's not that, any of them could have supported me more. I had all the support. I just couldn't receive them back then.